Well, it's the holiday season again, and thought it was time to pull out the Christmas engine. One of the things with the Christmas engine is I've never been quite satisfied how smoothly it spins. That can be improved by making a bigger, heavier flywheel. The wood flywheel never turned out to be real heavy. I wrapped a piece of metal around it, didn't do much. So I'm going to cut a ring to put around that. That'll help a little bit. Some of the other issues is I used a thicker paper on the bellow and it's a little stiff. And there's no bearing, but it spins fairly freely. That would just make it run quieter. So I'm going to go ahead, make the larger flywheel, see if that improves the smoothness of its run. For this update, my approach is going to be to just cut out a ring and attach it to the outside of the existing wooden flywheel. Not sure exactly the size I'm going to go with. I think I'm going to go with the larger one. Just trying to get a feel for sizes. When cutting metal on the scroll saw, a lot of times I'll put in a piece of wood and it makes it a lot easier to hold on to. I also found wearing these blue gloves helps grip it on the surface. Otherwise it's going to be very hard. You always want to wear earplugs, especially when cutting metal. And the gloves help a little bit with the sharp edges that you get too. So I'm going to start by cutting out the inside, then the outside, and then I'll have my ring. Got my ring cut out here. I did break a couple blades cutting it out. That's not that unusual for cutting metal. The blade will cut real nice for a while, and then as it fatigues and heats up, it breaks. I'll basically just put it right on. Right on like this. I'm going to go around it with a little quick steel epoxy. That's fast drying and good to 450 degrees, so that's perfect for this kind of application. I'm just going to pack it around the edge, all the way around. But before that, I'm going to just try to polish it up a little bit. I'm using a tile for my true flat surface, which I often do. A ground stone tile, not a ceramic one, because those do tend to have a little arch to them. Mix it up. I'll try to put it in. Try to use the gloves so I don't get it on my hands, but I'm not sure if I can do this without. Just real quick. I think its set time is like 5 minutes, so I don't have a whole lot of time to mess around. It's all set up now, on real good, tight. There's much more weight to it than before. Right, I'll try putting things on there now. I had a little string that I stuck into the middle to make it tighter. See if that's still making it tight enough. Seems a little loose. Oh yeah. So we need the flywheel came out looking alright, and it kind of worked a little bit, but still the performance of the engine was not where I would like it. So I've actually removed with a chisel the bellow that was on here, and I'm going to rebuild the bellow with a more flexible material. I had used a thicker cotton paper when I made it, thinking that would last a lot longer. So what I'm going to try and do now is rebuild the bellow kind of the same way I did on this on my rotary engine. And I'm going to use basically what was a coffee filter infused with some silicone. It's extremely flexible and airtight, relatively heat resistant. Using a Sharpie, I've traced the pattern onto my rubberized coffee filter as best I could, and I'll just cut that out, attach to a new set of wood. Obviously I destroyed the one that I took off. Well, I glued the bellow up with some silicone. I actually ended up wrapping it in tape and then clamping it with some foam to kind of hold everything together. Here's a test run with the new silicone coffee filter bellow. It's actually working quite well. If anything, now maybe the flywheel is a little too heavy for it to drive, but well, it's not really the same thing running on on an electric stove as on a wood stove. As far as the test goes of the bellow, it's working well. If I was to do one more thing, I would put maybe like a glass ring or something at the bottom to keep these springs from being attached to it. They're already separated from the top by being hooked up to wood on top, so there's no electrical connection for the heat to transfer through. But the heat's still going to go up the spring and be lost. But the air and surface area of the springs are pretty great, so they're actually a pretty good heat sink. So I'm losing a lot of my bottom heat on the springs where I wouldn't need to. I should be able to go over a wider range of temperatures, I would think, if I could just separate that. Here we have this Christmas engine running with all the modifications I planned. I have the wider flywheel. I added insulator beads towards the bottom of the springs, so we won't be losing heat from the bottom plate in the springs. And we have the silicone rubber infused coffee filter bellow that flexes easier. It's running much better at these lower temperatures. If you can see, before it was having trouble running at that temperature. That's really where most of the engines run or start running. One last look here. The stove's warmed up a little bit more. The engine's running quite well. Thanks for watching. Bye.